Hello and welcome to Daily News Simplified, an answer to what, why and how of newspaper reading. Today we are going to discuss the important news appearing in the New Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper dated 2nd February 2020. The news to be discussed has been displayed on the screen and timestamping for the same has been provided in the description box below. So let's start our today's discussion. Now, as you all know that yesterday the Union Budget was presented by the Union Finance Minister of India. So today's newspaper is filled completely with all the stories with respect to the Union Budget of 2020-21. So in this respect, a detailed analysis of the Union Budget 2021 shall be released very soon by Baswa sir, covering each of the important aspects of budget which is important from your UPSC perspective, both from your prelims as well as mains point of view. So in this analysis, let us go through the important highlights as have been covered in this newspaper with respect to different sectors whereby the budget has announced certain important schemes. Not only that, let us also understand and analyze the theme of the budget as well as what the budget effectively aims to achieve. Now, the first and foremost important aspect for you to know is that budget is presented as per Article 112 of the Indian Constitution and is referred constitutionally as the annual financial statement. So in this respect, you must know about the annual financial statement. So Article 112 says that the President of India shall, in respect of every financial year, cause to be laid before both houses of the Parliament a statement of the estimated receipts and expenditure of the Government of India for that year, and this aspect shall be referred as the annual financial statement. It further highlights that the estimates of the expenditure embodied in the annual financial statement shall show separately. First, the sums required to meet expenditure described by this constitution as expenditure charged upon the Consolidated Fund of India. So this expenditure, which is described by the Constitution as expenditure charged upon the Consolidated Fund of India, shall be shown separately. Further, the sums required to meet other expenditure proposed to be made from the Consolidated Fund of India. So this other expenditure which shall be proposed to be made from the Consolidated Fund of India shall also be shown separately. And the annual financial statement shall also distinguish expenditure on revenue account from other expenditure. So the annual financial statement shall also distinguish expenditure on revenue account from the other expenditure. So this is what has been exactly mentioned in Article 112 of the Indian Constitution with respect to annual financial statement. Now this news highlights that LIC IPO, that is initial public offer to lead disinvestment trust, generate revenue. So the government intends to disinvest LIC. Next, it highlights that challenges to fiscal consolidation from slower growth remains. So on account of slower growth, there is still certain challenges with respect to the fiscal consolidation of the government expenditures. And next it says that unimpressed Sensex closes nearly 988 points or 2.43% downwards. Further, page number 1 also highlights about industry, infrastructure, social sector as well as taxation. On industry, it says that the government will consider corporatizing at least one major port of this country. The policy to enable the private sector to build data center parks throughout the country will be released very soon. With respect to infrastructure, it says that the railways to set up Kisan Rail through public-private partnership. And in this regard, more Tejas type trains to connect major tourist destinations. So the thrust is clearly on running of more private trains in India. With respect to social sector, it says that steps to be taken to enable sourcing external commercial borrowings and FDI in higher education. And the center also aims to set up hospitals in public-private partnership mode under the Ayushman Bharat scheme. Thus, all these aspects becomes important with respect to our UPSC examination. And further, the government has also proposed a new income tax slab or new income tax structure for such individuals who are willing to forego exemptions and deductions. So this new tax slab shall be applicable only to such person who are willing to forego exemptions and deductions which they already claim under various sections of Income Tax Act. So we understand that the budget aims to cater different sectors of the Indian economy. So in this regard, let us try to understand and find out what the budget overall tries to achieve and also the important themes of the budget as highlighted by the Union Finance Minister. So the Union Budget of 2021 aims to achieve the following. First, it aims to achieve seamless delivery of service through promoting digital governance in the country. Next, it aims to improve physical quality of life through national infrastructure pipeline. Next, it aims to provide for risk mitigation through disaster resilience efforts. And it also aims to ensure social security through pension and insurance penetration schemes. So, the government highlights that the prominent themes of the budget for the year 2020-21 is first, aspirational India, in which all sections of the society seek better standards of living with access to health, education and better jobs. And in this regard, the three components of aspirational India are first, agriculture, irrigation and rural development, wellness, water and sanitation, and education and skills. Now the next prominent theme of the budget is economic development, and the prominent components are industry, commerce and investment, infrastructure as well as new economy. And this new economy highlights on building more data center parks and fiber to home connections through BharatNet. And the third prominent theme of this budget is caring society that is both human and compassionate, and where Antyodaya is an article of faith. And the components of caring society includes women and child welfare, culture and tourism, next environment and climate change, next governance, financial sector and financial markets. And the financial markets component includes disinvestment and fiscal management. So primarily, these are the prominent themes and their components with respect to the budget of 2021. So after understanding the aims of the budget as well as prominent themes of the budget, let us go through the various articles which has appeared in the news with respect to Union Budget 2021. On page number 2, we see these three important news appearing with respect to no more double taxation on dividends, affordable housing gets a leg up, and a steep increase in custom duty to keep Chinese toys out of reach. Let's understand the highlights of these three articles appearing on page number 2. Now with respect to no more double taxation on dividends, first of all let us understand what a dividend is. Now dividend is a part of a profit which a company shares with its shareholders. So a company on its profits distributes these dividends as reward from portion of its earnings. And these dividends can be in the form of cash, stocks or any other form. Now earlier, investors had to pay dividend distribution tax at the rate of 15% along with applicable surcharge and cess. But now the government has removed this dividend distribution tax, as according to the capital market it amounted to double taxation. So this budget has removed this dividend distribution tax. Further, any investor who received more than rupees 10 lakh as dividend in any financial year also had to pay additional 10% tax on such income. And in this regard, the capital market believed that this amounted to a sort of a double taxation. So in this aspect, the government has not only removed the dividend distribution tax, but has also removed this aspect with respect to investors who receive more than rupees 10 lakh as dividend. So now they do not have to pay 10% tax on such profit. And this step has been taken in order to increase the attractiveness of equity market and also to provide relief with respect to large class of investors. So considering both these aspects, the government has removed the dividend distribution tax. Further, it highlights that the government has also removed the additional 10% tax on investors. So now the dividend will only be taxed at the applicable tax rate based on income slab of particular individual. Now moving to the next news with respect to affordable housing gets a leg up, you must know the important components with respect to housing for all. So the Union Cabinet in June 2015 had approved housing for all by the year 2022, and this was aimed primarily for the urban areas, and it had the following components. First, a slum rehabilitation of slum dwellers with participation of private developers using land as a resource. Next, promotion of affordable housing for weaker section through credit-linked subsidy. Third, affordable housing in partnership with public and private sectors. And fourth, it also aimed to provide for subsidy for beneficiary-led individual house construction or the enhancement of any house. So in this aspect, the government has extended tax holiday for affordable housing. It says that last year, an additional deduction of rupees 1.5 lakh for interest paid on loans taken for purchase of affordable house was announced. So this deduction of rupees 1.5 lakh for interest paid on loans taken for purchase of affordable housing has now been extended up to 31st March 2021, as this was earlier allowed up to 31st March 2020. In this regard, the Finance Minister has also proposed to extend the date of approval for such projects to avail this tax holiday by one more year. So effectively, this tax holiday for another year applies both for the developers as well as for the home buyers. And this has been done in order to push the government's scheme of housing for all. Now with respect to the news on steep increase in customs duty, it basically has been done in order to give a boost to the MSME sector and also to boost local employment. So it says that customs duty has been raised on a range of articles like household goods, electrical appliances, auto parts, footwear, furniture, and also some mobile phone parts. And custom duties on these important articles has been increased, keeping in view the interest of the MSME segment. Also to facilitate ease of doing business, to secure trade borders, and also to keep a control on dumping primarily from China. So the news says that this increase in custom duty will not only prevent dumping from China, but will also help the MSME sector, thereby boosting our domestic industry, improving local employment, which will ultimately or eventually have a positive impact on India's GDP. So in this regard, there has been a steep increase in custom duty from the present 20% to 60% on toys, tricycles, scooters, scale models and dolls, most of which are imported from China. As you can see that this data highlights the existing as well as the new custom duty for various products like footwear, tableware, kitchenware, fans, hair dryers, toys, gold used in semiconductor devices, motors, fingerprint scanners in mobiles, display panel and touch assembly in mobiles, completely built commercial vehicles, and even semi-knocked down forms of electric passenger vehicles. However, custom duty on solar cells has been removed. Now moving on to page number 3, it has two important news. First, states tax share to stay at 42%. It says that the 15th Finance Commission to continue formula set by predecessor, that is set by the 14th Finance Commission. The second news says that the Finance Minister proposes a Taxpayers Charter to boost trust, and suitable amendments will be done in the Income Tax Act to provide for taxpayers' rights. Now both these news becomes important as Taxpayers Charter is proposed on the similar terms of a Citizens Charter. And the news with respect to the 15th Finance Commission becomes important. As you can see, a prelims based question was asked in the year 2015 by UPSC. Now the question read, with reference to the 14th Finance Commission, which of the following statements are correct? First, it has increased the share of states in the central divisible pool from 32% to 42%. The second statement read, it has made recommendations concerning sector-specific grants. No, this statement was incorrect with respect to the 14th Finance Commission. So the question was, select the correct answer using the code given below. So here the correct answer was A, that is 1 only. So with regard to 14th Finance Commission and in terms of reference, specifically with respect to central divisible pool with respect to states, this particular news gains significance with respect to the 15th Finance Commission. So let's see both these news appearing on page number 3 in brief. So the 15th Finance Commission in its interim report tabled in Parliament has recommended to maintain state share as per the 14th Finance Commission, that is at 42%. So the actual pool of funds available to states will be equivalent to what they were receiving from 42% share granted by the 14th Finance Commission. However, there has been a dip for Jammu and Kashmir. This news highlights that for Jammu and Kashmir, this share of divisible pool of collection of fund has been reduced or reset at 41%, and this has been done keeping in view the needs, including the special needs of the two newly created union territories, that is the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir and the Union Territory of Ladakh. In this regard, the 15th Finance Commission will submit its final report to the President of India during the later part of the year, that is during the later part of 2020, as this recommendation will include devolution formula proposed between centre and the states for the 5-year period. And this 5-year period shall be from 2021-22 to 2025-26 AD. Now, Finance Commission of India is constituted as per Article 280 of the Indian Constitution. Now, another important point to be noted with respect to prelims perspective is that there was an amendment with respect to terms of reference of 15th Finance Commission, as the government sought a separate allocation out of the fund for defence and internal security. And this separate allocation for defence and internal security was to be done before money was to be divided between centre and states. So accordingly, officials from the Ministry of Finance, Defence and Home will accordingly examine and propose suitable mechanism so that predictable and stable flow of money is allotted with respect to the defence as well as for internal security. Further, with respect to the news on Taxpayer Charter, the Union Finance Minister has proposed this Taxpayers Charter, which aims to boost trust between the citizens and authorities, especially with respect to tax collection, and this will effectively help to improve the efficiency of tax administration. So basically, this is a move to improve or increase trust between the citizens of India who pay their taxes as well as between the tax officials. This Taxpayers Charter, as enumerated by the Finance Minister, would lay out taxpayers' rights, and this will be incorporated in the Income Tax Act. So this Taxpayers Charter will have a statutory standing or a statutory value. Further, this news also highlights that this budget has also included a provision for e-appeal and other specific cases where technology has been used to enhance tax administration. And this is an initiative to provide efficiency, transparency, and accountability with respect to the assessment processes of tax collection. Further, this news highlights that through this e-appeal, it will help in eliminating the interface between the tax commissioner or the tax commissioner of appeals as well as the appellant in the course of their case proceedings. So on page number 3, these two news becomes important. Now moving on to page number 4, we see these two news with respect to International Bullion Exchange, which is to be set up at IFSC, and insurance cover on deposits raised to rupees 5 lakh. And this step has been taken after 27 years, that is after 1993, in the wake of Punjab and Maharashtra cooperative bank crisis. So let's briefly understand these two important news appearing on page number 4. Now the Government of India has proposed through the budget to set up an International Bullion Exchange at IFSC, that is International Financial Service Center in Gujarat, in the GIFT city. Now GIFT here stands for Gujarat International Finance Tech City. Now the government says that setup of International Bullion Exchange at GIFT city in Gujarat will lead to better price discovery of gold, create more jobs, enhance India's position in the markets, especially with respect to precious metals, including gold as well as diamond, as the International Bullion Exchange deals in precious metals as well as diamonds. And also, this will act as an additional option with respect to trade by global market participants. Now, this International Financial Services Center caters to customers outside the jurisdiction of domestic economy. So, it basically caters to individuals, organizations and firms who deals with flows of finance, financial products as well as services who are outside the jurisdiction of domestic economy. Now, it's important to note that the Union Cabinet, chaired by Prime Minister, has approved the establishment of a unified authority to regulate all financial services in International Financial Services Center in India through an act named as International Financial Services Centers Authority Act of 2019. Now, this act highlights that it aims to provide for establishment of an authority to develop and regulate the financial services market in the International Financial Services Centers in India. Now, the first IFSC in India has been set up at Gift City in Gujarat, that is Gujarat International Finance Tech City. And this particular act aims to establish this Financial Services Centers Authority, which shall develop and regulate financial products, financial services and financial institutions inside the International Financial Services Center. Now, as already highlighted, that this IFSC caters to customers outside the jurisdiction of domestic economy. So, it enables bringing back financial services and transactions which are currently being carried out in foreign jurisdiction, that is offshore jurisdiction, by financial centers, by Indian corporate entities and overseas branches, and also by subsidiaries of financial institutions to India. And this is done by offering business as well as regulatory environment in the domestic country. However, the challenge is that such environment as well as regulatory regime must be at par with international financial centers in the world, like as of now in London as well as in Singapore. So, if India wants to attract these investments in Gift City, then they have to provide a regulatory and business environment at par with that of London as well as Singapore. So, bringing back these financial services also helps Indian corporates, as it makes easier for them to have an access to global financial market. And as highlighted by the Union Finance Minister, IFSC would also complement and promote further development of financial markets in India. Now, moving on to the next news, it says that the insurance cover on deposits have been raised to rupees 5 lakhs. Now, here it is important to note that under the current bank deposit insurance scheme, in case of a bank going bankrupt or if a bank fails, then deposits up to rupees 1 lakh of a customer is insured and it is paid back to them. However, this insurance is now increased to rupees 5 lakh, and this has been done keeping in mind the failure of Punjab and Maharashtra cooperative bank crisis. So in this aspect, the government has decided to increase this insurance cover for bank deposits to rupees 5 lakh from the present rupees 1 lakh. So this scheme effectively insures all types of bank deposits, including savings deposit, fixed deposit as well as recurring deposit with an insured bank. And the bank deposits are insured by Deposit Insurance and Credit Guarantee Corporation, and this corporation is a subsidiary of RBI. It further highlights that the Deposit Insurance and Credit Guarantee Corporation does not directly charge any premium from bank depositors, that is, it does not charge any premium from the customer. But banks pay a nominal premium for the cover to this corporation. Now, it's important to note that deposits maintained with different banks are not clubbed. However, deposits maintained by a person across different branches of the same bank which has failed are clubbed. Suppose if a person has 10 different accounts of the same bank ABC in different branches. So, in case this bank fails, then he shall be paid a cumulatively sum of rupees 1 lakh. And this will be inclusive of all his account in the 10 different branches. So, all branches of the failed banks are clubbed in case money has to be paid in case of failure of banks, but deposit maintains with different banks are not clubbed. It further says that deposit insurance scheme covers all bank operation in India, and it includes private sector banks, cooperative banks, and even branches of foreign banks in India. However, there are certain exemptions like deposits of foreign governments are not considered, deposits of central and state governments are not considered, and also interbank deposits are not considered. So these can be said to be some of the important aspects with respect to this particular news on insurance cover on deposits raised to rupees 5 lakhs. The next news appears on page number 6. It says logistics policy to be released soon. So in the union budget, the government has announced for a national logistic policy. The government said that it will soon release a national logistics policy which will clarify the roles of union government, state governments as well as important or key regulators for this particular sector. The policy aims to create a single window mechanism for e-logistics market. And the focus of this policy would not only to create or generate employment in the sector, but also upgrade skills in the logistics sector. Further, the policy wants to focus on making this MSME competitive, especially in the logistics sector. Further, the logistics sector or the logistic market is very much fragmented as of now. So this policy aims to defragment or unify the entire logistics sector in the country. And for this, the government also aims to reduce the present logistic cost, which at present is at 14%, and the government wants to reduce this cost to 10% for the consumers by the year 2022. So effectively, we can say that the logistics sector has the potential to facilitate domestic as well as foreign trade, to promote global competitiveness, enhance income of people who are employed in this sector, and also drive the Make in India initiative of the Government of India. So in this regard, let us wait for the final national logistic policy to be released soon by the Government of India. Now moving on to page number 7, we have taken these two important news. These news are first, private players allowed to set up data parks, and second, a boost for technical textiles. The government aims to propose national mission to give thrust to production of textiles used in different sectors. So this news with respect to private players allowed to set up data parks mentions about these three important aspects. First, it provides for allocation of rupees 6,000 crore for the BharatNet program. Second, it says that considering the importance of data and data monitoring, the Indian statistical system has to meet these challenges specifically with respect to real-time monitoring of important data. And the government also aims to set up a new national policy on official statistics. Further, on this news on boost for technical textiles, the government aims to propose a national textile mission which the government wants to implement for the year 2020-21 to 2023-24. And one of the most important aspect of this mission is to reduce import of this technical textiles. Another important fact highlighted in this news is that the government has agreed for abolition of anti-dumping duty on PTA, that is purified terephthalic acid. And this abolition of anti-dumping duty on PTA will give a thrust to the polyester and fiber sector in the country. So let's go through the important aspect of both these news. Now, as already mentioned, that the finance minister has allocated rupees 6,000 crore under the BharatNet program. And the aim is to enhance broadband connectivity in rural areas. Further, it also aims to allow private players to set up data parks in India. So the whole objective of this government with respect to BharatNet program is to provide digital connectivity to all the important public institutions in rural areas, such as at the level of Gram Panchayat, in Anganwadis, in the health and wellness centers, in government schools, in PDS, that is public distribution system outlets, in post offices as well as police station. Now providing internet connectivity to these public institutions will further improve governance in the country. Now further, the government has highlighted the importance of data and has used the cliche that data is the new oil. And on this aspect, the government aims to bring a policy to enable the private sector to build data center parks throughout the country. as it will enable the firms to skillfully incorporate data in every step of their value chains. So, using data at the ground level will become an important aspect for this government. Further, the finance minister also highlighted the growing need for an Indian statistical system which will meet the challenges of real-time data monitoring. So in this regard, the government has proposed new national policy on official statistics, as it will use latest technology including artificial intelligence. Further, this policy will also lay down a roadmap with respect to modernization of data collection, integrated information portal, and timely dissemination of information. Improvisation in data collection of the government will also help in providing this good governance index as well as in district aspirational program. So, data management as well as data connectivity becomes a key concern of the government. And in this regard, the government has not only allocated rupees 6,000 crore under the BharatNet program for digital connectivity in rural institutions, but also proposed a new national policy on official statistics. Now moving on to the next news, the government has also announced a National Technical Textiles Mission. And this mission is expected to give a thrust to production of different variety of textiles which is used in India in different sectors, such as in the sector of healthcare, infrastructure, automobiles, defense, agriculture, etc. And as mentioned, this mission will be implemented from 2020-21 to 2023-24. And this aims to put India as a global leader with respect to technical textiles. Now, it's important to know about technical textiles. So these technical textiles or engineered textiles are defined as products that are used for functional purposes. And these have applications in various areas of economic activity such as aerospace, shipping, sports, agriculture, defense, as well as healthcare. Now, another important aspect of National Technical Textile Mission is to reduce India's dependence on import of these technical textiles, as India imports a very high quantity of these technical textiles worth $16 billion every year. So, this mission also aims to reverse this trend and make India a global leader with respect to technical textiles. So, this mission aims to produce technical textiles in India. So, effectively, this mission will help in creating a domestic base for raw material production. It will provide push for manufacture of high-end technical textile products, boost investment in the sector, increase per capita consumption of textile, and overall improve employment generation in the textile sector in India. Now, as highlighted, another major announcement is with respect to abolition of anti-dumping duty on purified terephthalic acid, and this is basically used by the polyester sector in India. So, abolition of anti-dumping duty on PTA will definitely give a thrust to the polyester and fiber sector in India, as PTA is the raw material for production of polyester fiber. So on these accounts, both these news becomes important from our prelims as well as mains perspective. Now this particular news with respect to allocation for MGNREGA slashed by 9,500 crore has been taken from page number 10, and this news with respect to government bites the fiscal deficit bullet has been taken from page number 6. Further, the editorial as well as the lead article have been taken from page number 12. Now both the editorial and the lead article provides for criticism of the union budget of 2020-21, whereby it also mentions about slashing of MGNREGA fund and also the government biting fiscal deficit bullet. So in this regard, first let us go through both these news and then we'll try to understand the criticism of the union budget as highlighted in the editorial as well as in the lead article. Now, it was expected that to boost rural demand and consumption, the government would increase allocation of fund for MGNREGA, and it was also highlighted few days back in one of the articles appearing in the Hindu newspaper. So in this regard, the government has slashed MGNREGA fund by rupees 9,500 crore. Now with respect to government biting the fiscal bullet, it says that in the wake of lower tax collections and amid a slowing economy, the government has decided to allow the fiscal deficit to go up to 3.8% of GDP for the current financial year. And for this, the Union Finance Minister has cited Section 4 Clause 3 of FRBM Act. So in this regard, first of all, let us go through the important aspects of FRBM Act, that is Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act, and also with respect to Section 4 Clause 3. So it highlights that the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act 2003 provides for responsibility of the central government to ensure intergenerational equity in fiscal management, providing long-term macroeconomic stability by removing fiscal impediments in the effective conduct of monetary policy and prudential debt management, which is consistent with fiscal sustainability through limits on central government borrowings, debts and deficits, greater transparency in fiscal operations of the central government, and conducting fiscal policy in a medium-term framework, and for matters connected with all these aspects. So, the question is that what is fiscal management principles as highlighted in section 4 of this act? It says the central government shall take appropriate steps to limit the fiscal deficit up to 3% of GDP by 31st March 2021. It shall endeavour to ensure that the general government debt does not exceed 60%, that the central government debt does not exceed 40% of gross domestic product by the end of financial year 2024-25, and the central government shall not give additional guarantees with respect to any loan on security of the Consolidated Fund of India in excess of 0.5% of gross domestic product in any financial year. Further, Section 4 Clause 3 of FRBM Act says that any deviation from fiscal deficit target under subsection 2 shall not exceed 0.5% of the gross domestic product in a year. So, the Union Finance Minister cited Section 4 Clause 3, which provides for a trigger mechanism with respect to deviation from estimated fiscal deficit target on account of structural reforms in the economy with unanticipated fiscal implication. Further, the fiscal deficit target for the next year is pegged at 3.5% of GDP. So after understanding both these news appearing on page number 10 and page number 6, let us understand the criticism as highlighted in the editorial as well as in the lead article. Now the article says that considering the slowdown in the economy, the budget was rather expected to be expansionary and was not supposed to take a middle path, that is between conservative and between expansionary. So this government has taken a middle path with respect to this particular budget. So on this regard, both the article as well as the editorial mentioned that the government decided or chose to take a middle path with respect to union budget because of economic slowdown, as it led to revise in fiscal deficit target, also because there was a shortfall in tax revenue, also with respect to low proceeds from disinvestment, and also with respect to unrealistic targets set by the government with respect to disinvestment, which the government has set at rupees 2,10,000 crore for the year 2020-21. And these disinvestments is for the non-financial public sector enterprises, public sector banks and financial institutions. Further, the article and the editorial says that the government will also entail a loss of around rupees 65,000 crore as it has removed the dividend distribution tax. The article also says that total expenditure to GDP ratio has been projected at mere 13.5%, which was earlier in 2019-20 pegged at 13.2%. Further, this article says that the government has allocated less fund with respect to MGNREGA and also with respect to schemes related to scheduled caste. So this article says that by reducing fund with respect to MGNREGA and schemes related to scheduled caste, the government does not fulfill the theme as envisaged in the budget with respect to aspirational India, development as well as caring society. Further, the article also highlights that various existing schemes of the government also saw less spending mainly on account of revenue shortfall of the government. These schemes are PM Kisan, PM Gram Sadak Yojana, Ayushman Bharat and BharatNet. So all these schemes saw less spending by the government. And in this regard, the article cautions that the pattern of less spending might repeat even in the year 2020-21. And this would be mainly because of unrealistic revenue expectation, unrealistic expectations on corporate tax collection, as well as growth in non-tax revenues with respect to slowdown in the economy, and also with respect to unrealistic target for disinvestment proceeds, which has been set at rupees 2,10,000 crore. So these are some of the criticism provided by the editorial as well as the lead article appearing on page number 12. Now after our discussion, these are your practice questions. Question number 1. Consider the following statements about annual financial statement as provided in the Constitution of India. First, it shall be presented only in the House of People. No, this is incorrect, as it shall be presented in both houses of Parliament. Second, it provides a statement of estimated receipts and expenditure of Government of India. Yes, this is correct. Which of the statements given above are correct? Here, the correct answer is B, that is 2 only. Question number 2. Union Budget 2020-21 provides for which of the following? First, setting up of Kisan Rail. Correct. Second, setting up of International Bullion Exchange. Yes, correct. Third, new national policy on official statistics. Yes, it also mentions about this policy on official statistics. The question is, select the correct answer using the code given below. So here the correct answer is D, that is 1, 2 and 3. Now coming to question number 3, it says, consider the following statements about the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act 2003. First, the central government should provide for fiscal management and long-term macroeconomic stability by removing fiscal impediments. Yes, this is correct. Second, it allows for deviation from fiscal deficit target of 2.5%. No, this is incorrect, as it only allows for a deviation of 0.5%. So the question is, which of the statements given above are correct? So here the correct answer is A, that is 1 only. Question number 4. It says, which of the following can be said to be the prominent theme of Union Budget 2020-21? Options are aspirational India, economic development, caring society and green environment. In this, green environment is not one of the prominent theme. So the question is, select the correct answer using the code given below. So the correct answer is B, that is 1, 2 and 3 only. With this, we come to an end to discussion of today's newspaper. Let's move on to the question for the day.